What's the one moment in your life you still can't explain even though you've replayed it in your head 1,000 times? I was sitting in class, 8th grade, and had this overwhelming emotion sweep over me. I started bawling and was sent to the office. I called my mom to come and pick me up, and she agreed because I never missed school and never caused trouble. My dad had been really sick for almost my entire life, so I just went home and I crawled in bed next to him and watched our usual World War II documentary, and we both fell asleep. I woke up a few hours later holding his hand and turned to look at my dad, and I knew he was dead. I sat there for a few minutes in absolute shock before going out to tell my mom. All these years later I can't explain what came over me sitting in class, but I knew I had to go home and nothing was going to stop me from being next to my daddy that day. If ever I want to be sick and go in the afterlife, then with my kid sleeping next to me, if I'm morally allowed. He passed with the deepest of love and safety he could have. Gosh, I'm bawling at 8 AM and it must have been so hard for you, but as a parent, that must have been given him eternal peace. As a kid, I didn't understand why it happened that way, and I really struggled with it for many years. As a parent of 3 myself, you're so right. Thank you for helping me to reframe that after all these years. This was in the early 90s, when caller ID was still pretty new. My dad called. He was hours away with our church youth group. The number from where he was came up on the caller ID and I glanced at it before answering. His voice was obviously distressed. He asked to talk to my mom. She wasn't home. He told me he'd call back. I couldn't shake the tone of his voice and I knew something was wrong. When my mom returned, edited to add, she came back about an hour after his call. I told her, hey, Dad called and I think something's wrong. You need to call him. She went to the caller ID and the number was gone. But I remembered it. Literally one glance and I just recited the number. She looked at me funny and called the number one gave her. It was a hospital. One of the kids on the youth trip drowned and my dad needed my mom to go tell the kid's family. In all of the horror of the day and days after, that one weird detail never left me. I do not have an eidetic memory. Something just in that moment stored it in my brain until my mom was home. We obviously still don't know very much about the brain. I believe that sometimes the brain decides to remember something because it knows it may be extremely important. This is probably what happened to you. It probably sensed the tone of your dad's voice and made that decision to allow you to remember the number when you normally otherwise wouldn't be able to. I don't believe the whole you only use 10% of your brain BS. But I do think that, because we really don't understand a lot about it, it has the potential to do weird things like this in certain situations. No one ever believes me, but here goes. When I was in college I shared a room with a friend of mine from high school. One night I was sleeping and had a dream where he and I were on this huge pile of garbage, searching for something. We were both digging in the trash. Then I woke up. I got up and went to the bathroom. When I climbed back in bed my roommate kind of stirred and mumbled, "I found it. It's over here," and then rolled over and went quiet again. The next morning he didn't remember any of it. I didn't dream getting out of bed. I didn't dream his response. I had a roommate in college who talked in her sleep most nights. I do it from time to time, but usually only if I'm sick or influenced in some way. A few times, I would wake up in the middle of saying a sentence, and I'd hear her respond. I realized we were speaking to each other in our sleep. I don't recall anything about my dreams then, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were incorporating each other into our dreams via conversation. I bet that's what happened to you. My kids have bunk beds, and sometimes in the middle of the night they are both sleep talking back and forth. There was one time when I was about 17 driving back home with some friends and everything on the street, including in the car, went straight black, almost like a power surge, but not a single piece of light was on for about a solid second. I get how it could happen outside of the car, but inside all dash lights, the radio, and even the headlights turned off. It was strange. When I was in high school, there was a stretch of road alongside a cemetery that always made whichever CD I had playing skip. It happened enough times where I started testing it by driving slower, faster, switching out CDs, and it always happened next to that cemetery without fail. It was freaky. So not like a pothole skip. I don't miss car CD players, but a random glitch at that same spot? Creepy. Yes. Random glitch. I kept my eye out for potholes and bumps and there weren't any. I found a handprint in one of my bathroom rugs. I live by myself and had no visitors. Plus, my hand was too small for the handprint in the rug. I hate this one. I witnessed a traffic collision where a vehicle ultimately exploded. But I witnessed someone get out from the passenger side and walk off to the side of the road. It was a solo occupant who perished in the explosion. You saw their soul leaving. One time when I was 7 or 8 I lost this ring my grandma gave me. She hadn't passed, but just lived far, and I missed her badly. So when I lost it, I was basically hysterical. Searched all day and cried myself to sleep when I couldn't find it. The next day, I found it perfectly placed on my bedside table. Obviously I was overjoyed and thanked my parents for finding it, but neither of them had and told me it would have been my brother's. Neither of my brothers were the ones who found it, and I strongly doubt they would have bothered to look. Everyone fell asleep before me, and I was a light enough sleeper that I would have noticed someone coming into my bedroom to look. Even if it had been my parents, they had no reason to lie or to not tell me where they had found it. I never figured out who returned it to me, but I still have it. My mom told me a story about her buying a ring at some small store in Ann Arbor. Me in the 60s, it just caught her eye. Next time she went home to Ohio, she was wearing it, and my grandma recognized it. Her mom had either sold or lost it decades ago. In Georgia, it was engraved with either her birthday or anniversary. My late wife, who had been recently diagnosed epileptic after a head injury, was taking a bath, and I had music cranking, Led Zeppelin's In My Time of Dying, when I heard her say help. Get in here. I ran there and found her face down in the tub, seizing, face underwater, and got her out. The part one cannot explain was how I heard her. The music was so loud that there was no possible way I could have heard her with my ears. To this day I believe I heard her in my mind. I had an asthma attack start in my sleep. I had fallen asleep in my recliner in the living room and my husband was in our bedroom. He heard me call for help, and when he got there I was seizing from lack of oxygen. I was flighted to a bigger hospital, stopped breathing mid-flight and was intubated. I spent time in a medically induced coma. When I woke up and tried to piece things together, the part that didn't make sense was him hearing me. According to the doc, I wouldn't have had the breath or the ability to yell at all, but he heard me over 2 TVs playing. We can't figure out how, and honestly just accept it was either some form of telepathy or a mystery we'll never solve. I was driving from Milwaukee to the Wisconsin Dells, and near Sun Prairie, a good 50 minutes from home, we passed a very distinct car. Shitty old Toyota, windows down. Driver didn't have a shirt. Dog in the backseat. We then realized we forgot something really important, so had to head home and grab it. Then, near Sun Prairie, the second time though, we passed the exact same car, in almost the exact same spot. There was no mistaking this vehicle, the driver, the dog, all the same. Almost 2 hours later, my wife and I still talk about it. Maybe they also forgot something. That they died on the road in that exact spot. Tell them Large Marge sent ya. I posted this yesterday in another thread, but I think it fits here, so I leave it here a second time. This happened a few years ago, when I was working night shifts at a bakery. I used to walk to work through a wooded path that opened into a wide lawn. One night, I noticed a small, flickering light in the distance. Curious, I stepped off the main path and crossed the grass toward it. When I got closer, I saw what it was. In the middle of the field was a miniature dollhouse with candles burning inside, lighting up the tiny windows. I stood there for a moment, confused, unsure what to make of it, especially since those candles don't burn forever, you know. I looked around, but did not see anyone. Eventually I turned around and continued to work, but that image has stuck with me since. Nothing too crazy happened. It's just that I still have no idea how it got there, or why it was there. Just weird. Stepping off the path and heading towards flickering lights is how the will-o'-the-wisps get you. I'm glad you made it home safe. I took the garbage out at 1 AM and there was a flickering light in the abandoned neighbor's driveway. It was moving up the driveway in this jerky motion. I took a step towards it and then realized that's how they get you, and I ran in the house. No clue what it was. According to my sister, our mother was typing on her computer and managed to delete the entire hard drive. Something like this is how I learned how to fix computers. We got a PC in the 80s for my mom's work, but dad liked to tinker with it in the evenings. Frequently he would break something, have no idea how to fix it, and then wake me up and be like, quick, help me figure this out before mom wakes up and kills us both. What is this? You broke it, lol. One time I randomly met a childhood friend on the other side of the world. Still blows my mind how that happened. I was on a cruise with my girlfriend and met some guy at the nightclub, and when we were talking his brother is in charge of the hardware repairs for the laptops at my workplace. Almost crashed my car coming up to a red light on ice. Swerved through moving traffic as it turned green and didn't hit anyone. Made it past like 15 cars through 2 lanes. Barely any control, just pure dumb luck. This happened to me coming off a freeway exit. And it was like a clip from r/Mabe. I hit a patch of black ice, steered wrong and ended up hitting a complete 360, briefly facing right into oncoming traffic, and then somehow magically slid right back into my lane and managed to come to a stop at the light. I still don't know how I didn't die. I just saw a dashcam video of man swerving into the median to avoid being hit by a big van. It was so close. Without missing a beat, his wife says, "How did you do that? How did we not die?" And he just smirked. Had a legend. Good call. Her exact words were, "How the F did you do that?" And smirked is a perfect term. He is my hero. I'm a paramedic in Louisiana. One morning I called into work. It was a Friday and I needed a 3-day weekend. My boss was super chill. She told me to enjoy myself. I had about an hour commute. And most days my girlfriend and I would carpool together. While she got dressed for her workday, I laid in bed and had this nagging voice in my head telling me I needed to go work. I pushed it off several times and it just kept getting louder. Go to work. I gave in and told her that I would be carpooling with her after all. Our commute is mostly on I-55, a bridge in the swamp that doesn't have much traffic. It doesn't have a shoulder. Just enough room for a car to pull over and a wall to keep you from driving over the side into the water. There's only an exit every 7 to 10 miles. Northbound side is its own bridge, and southbound is its own. We are about 20 minutes into our commute and I'm speeding. The speed limit is 70 miles per hour, but with how isolated it is, I usually drive around 85 miles per hour. I'm in the fast lane, and I notice a van pulled over to the right. No hazard lights, just parked. It's not an odd thing to see. People are constantly breaking down in this area, running out of gas, mostly due to it being such a long stretch without an exit or gas station. So I see this van, and between the van and the wall, I notice someone doing CPR. I quickly pull over and tell my girlfriend to call 911. I approach the van and tell the guy doing CPR I can help. He tells me his friend just got out of rehab and did some heroin. I assess the male on the ground. I feel a pulse, but he isn't breathing. I've worked many of overdoses in my career, but from the comfort of an ambulance, this day I had nothing. I gave this guy mouth to mouth for about 15 minutes until a police officer arrived with Narcan. By the time an ambulance arrived, he was awake and alert. Like I said, I've worked many overdoses. The thing that makes me replay this in my head is a voice telling me to get up. It was profound. If I would have never called in to work and went for my normal time, it would have been hours before, and he would be dead. If I wouldn't have listened to that voice, he would be dead. Something spoke to me. I don't know what it is, but I wish it would speak to me more. I wish every day I could hear that voice again. I was talking with my wife when all of a sudden, our 2 children walk out of one of the bedrooms. I'm standing in their way and they just move past me to the French doors leading to the lanai. They don't say anything and have like a blank stare. I tell my wife, get a load of these 2. Seems like they think they are their own bosses. And we both laughed it off. I opened the doors for them and let them out. I continue the conversation with my wife and we are both laughing at how our 4 and 5-year-olds decided they were going to go out, whether we liked it or not. About 10 minutes later, I opened the door to the LAN to check on them, except they are nowhere to be found. I go to the backyard, and I'm in a panic, because I'm thinking they went off to cross the street or something. Meanwhile, my wife goes to the front yard to see if they are out there and there is no trace of them. Finally, I go to one of the rooms and open the door. I see both of them sitting on the bed playing with their toys. I'm so confused, because to come back in, they would have had to open the door where I was standing in front of. So I ask my eldest, hey, how did you guys get back in? And he says, get back in from where? We've been here playing in the room this whole time. I swear I'm not making this up, but I once saw someone who looked exactly like me. Same clothes, same bag, everything. Walk out of a store that I was literally about to enter. We locked eyes for half a second, and then they just turned the corner and vanished. My mom was with me, and she saw him too. Still bothers me to this day. I used to have friends tell me they saw me places that I wasn't. Some said they would call my name and I'd just walk right by them, like I didn't hear them. Later on, I was at an event at my favorite bar/bowling alley. There was a bunch of bands playing a show and artists selling their stuff. I was having a drink, chatting with some friends when someone that looked exactly like me walked by. Immediately, I'm like, WTFFFFF is going on? And one of my friends says, oh yeah, that's the guy that looks like you. He was one of the vendors at the show. I talked to him for a bit, checked out his art and stuff. Weirdest part is, he was making art that was eerily similar to mine. Anyway, found out from other people that he was kinda a jerk. So I'm not the evil twin, I guess.